Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Northstar. Hope you're well, taking care of each other, and being kind to yourselves. What is with the love of buildings with pillars? Well, that might be type of architecture. It's common in China, but I doubt it. So I have gotten the No Compromise, No Surrender. The DLC was on sale. Probably not going to go on such a sale. One of the third-party websites, Paradox, sometimes put stuff, so they had an additional sale. The base price was pretty much the same as Steam, but they were offering any game you buy on the platform 15% off, I think it was, which made it cheaper. I'm still sticking with, the version before No Compromise, No Surrender. I've got campaigns to do here. And the first of these is a single player, is Syria, that's probably going to be transitioning to another nation. And then there's a multiplayer branch with Joe, where, same thing. There I'll probably get to play as Norway. Here, it's probably doomed. Norwegian People's Republic, because the United States has joined this faction. The only way I could have averted it is, I think if I faced down the Tay issue, or even justified Turkey earlier, Sweden and Norway could have been manipulated into the Central Powers, and so, well, the Soviet Union was still gone to war with Finland, because Soviet Lithuania would have requested it. They'll also request Poland, and so that would have still led to them being at war with the US, but not Norway. Of course, I would have had to do a land war against the Turkish Empire, and I probably would have lost that. Still, would have been better in the long run, because the Central Powers will eventually declare war in the US and get crushed, I believe, although if they overwhelm Orleanist France and the UK, well, not the UK, England, and Deutschland joins their faction, then, yeah, they may eventually, and especially if in that version, if Central Powers had gotten Spain, because if I had bought them, they probably would have ended up taking down the US with that much, maybe even here, we'll see. Spain is very underdeveloped because, as if trolling, after Stalin won the civil war against Trotsky, he created Republican Spain with no core states, which blocks them from getting build slots in any of their recovery from the Civil War things. And the Republicans declared war on the Soviet Spain, which was based off the nationalist time before they added any build slots. So there's been no build slots added to the Iberian Peninsula since the Spanish Civil War, which means it's going to be weak industrially. The only way to get it strong will later be to carve it up into a bunch of like generic puppets, and this game goes very long. And yeah, it'll end up probably under U.S. occupation. Assuming that I can take over the faction before Norwegian People's Republic surrenders as Syria, I'd probably be the last faction member to fall. Otherwise, I may be not untouched, but have not actually been occupied, but the U.S. taking down the faction leader is the only major and forced to surrender, regardless of how things are going in the Middle East. Either way, it's probably doomed. So this may carry forward the revolution to Karelia, which is still a Marxist country. There's also England, which might be doomed if the Central Powers eventually wear them down, though I could probably avert that. Definitely avert that. It's just I keep playing this thing because they have this huge fleet, and it's a hassle. Hey, but maybe if I take it over when they're in crisis and close to collapse, they won't have so much fleet anymore. Also, I just learned about something that quantifiably is useful, and that is research juggling, assuming that hasn't been removed by one of the fixes since one of the patches the game. It's possible. It's not much different than saving up 30 days of research before starting a tech, except that if you were doing ahead of time penalties, you get a little further if you do research slot juggling. It definitely should, though, reduce the MIO funding at least the same as if you saved up research for 30 days, and maybe only give you as much funding as when you switch tech to a different slots. The way you would do that is like you'd be working on something, say you wanted to get excavation 4 really early. You'd be working on it. The AI probably didn't delay this more than a day at most. And then when advanced artillery is done, you still have maybe 30 days. Swap this to something else, excavation to here, and that would put the 30 days into excavation 4, or if there was 1 day saved up, 29 days. However, I'm pretty sure it calculates MIO funding from the slot the last time you put something into a slot, so I'm pretty sure this would reduce funding for anything that has an MIO. So it's still useful for, like, there's no cost for doing it if you're getting like an industry tech ahead of time, and it can be used to, from the very start of the game, get, say, construction 30 days earlier, utilizing it well. So I don't know, it's a trick I'll have to learn to master, and it definitely could have helped me in this game. Anyways, maybe future campaigns. If it gets hopeless enough, even switch to other Marxist countries, maybe I'll give up. Maybe. Or maybe I'll be playing to like 1970 for final victory. So Karelia here, I'm looking at Turkish territory. They don't have any naval bases. The AI stupidly will produce ships, which they're able to do. A player can't actually queue them up, and then they just go straight into scrapping. The only thing they've done with it is cost themselves more steel than convoys. Although since they're at the bottom of the queue, it doesn't slow down anything above. So the only thing they've really done is gotten MIO funding for, well, you can see their escort fleet manufacturers. Annoyingly, they did anti-airships. I guess that's the way of the future, so it's not as bad as any 12 ships they've just scrapped as what they did with their aircraft manufacturer. That upsets me. Bomb trucks is a terrible choice. They would have been much better off with fast bombers, because if the enemy fighters are faster when they're attacking bomber, they get an attack bonus proportionate to the relative speed difference. So you're better off going with fast bombers, which the devs of this game very much like. Think the Nazi war machine was great, and the Nazi doctrine was fast bombers, so of course that's what prize is being the better choice. Bomb trucks, I mean, it's useful if you're not facing, if you have complete control of the skies, and you're only facing strategic, state anti-air, and even then strategic bombers have so much air defense that air defense matters not at all once the state anti-air would destroy less than one bomber on average, or, well, I think it's got a range damage done, but when the max damage falls below one bomber in an entire wing, then it no longer matters at all. So if you're using undersized wings, you can't get enough bombers, and you only have like 50. Then it always rounds up to one bomber, and it'll make no difference. Before that, though, especially using like tactical bombers to strategic bomb, it might make a small difference against anti-air guns. But state anti-air guns, it makes no difference against divisional anti-air, but it will not help against fighters, which are much bigger risk, especially going against the US. So this is just bad. There's no way to undo MIO traits. Anyways, a naval base is needed for them to actually produce destroyers. I could do it here, or here. In the multiplayer game, I think in advance of the next game I did with Joe, I went and queued him up on the, what's the name of this, the Gulf of Finland, a naval base, because there, for a while, until there's a swap Norway probably wanted to declare it Finland before they joined the US faction, so they'll join the Central Powers there, and me and Joe would finagle Norway and Sweden into the Central Powers so that, we don't have to face down the US, and then it would just be Soviet Lithuania. Actually, if the Soviets can be brought via the British focus, show what I'm talking about. If the Soviet Union accepts the offer, which they might not, and it might be always Stalin would and Trotsky wouldn't. If we help Trotsky win the Civil War, that might, I don't know exactly how that work. Which side would be more likely to accept it, but they join the faction, then Soviet Lithuania won't declare on, or the Soviets shouldn't declare in Denmark, since it's a puppet of their own faction members, and usually the game forbids going to war with your own faction, although it can bug out sometimes. So they wouldn't declare on that, but they would declare on Sweden, Norway, and Finland, and Poland, the Soviets. And so making sure these all end up joining the Central Powers, and then squashing them and be a war into Europe as the Soviets and British and Norwegians. And that would be tough, but a lot less tough than facing down the U.S. here. Here, I missed the boat to do that. Now, all United States faction. The way Nordic that might not be. Iceland is too. Let's see. Sweden can't create a faction because they don't finish their fascist-focused trade. Norway's locked out part of their political. Finland already took the go with major democracies. I don't think Iceland can form a faction as the Kingdom of Iceland. If they do not, our king. I'm pretty sure there's a way for them to create a faction. Maybe, I'm not sure. Going down this path. Yeah, so the Nordic Council, whatever. It's not if the Nordic People's Union, Northern People's Union, Northern International right now, if the Norway NPR loses its war against Norway, that faction and the combined focus tree won't be available until playing as Denmark, and I'll still have to get another Nordic in the faction, which might not be possible, even if I swap to playing as Denmark. Oh, wait. Forget I said that. There's other nations, other Nordics, besides the ones that historically existed. No? I thought Lappy counted, because they have, for some focuses they do, but not for this. Yeah. Alright, well, that faction will probably never get to be created unless somehow be in the US, which isn't going to happen. That's a shame. Like, play is honestly the best chance of survival, and the most interesting thing would be to take over Karelia for a while after losing Syria, maybe Denmark later when they're getting closer to independence, because otherwise I'm just sitting there slowly increasing independence. From assuming they don't get independence when NPR surrenders. I'm not sure if they're made a puppet or become a U.S. supervised state or whatever, but independence as Denmark, and then if communist or flipping back to communist, I'm not sure. They wouldn't be at war with the U.S. I think they would just become independent, because their puppet master would become a puppet, but they weren't in war with the U.S., so they can't be puppeted by them. So, yeah, Denmark would just become independent, I think. But playing as Denmark could join the British faction and work with the British. If I don't want to play as the British, work with them to try and make sure that the main British Isle does not get invaded and conquered by the Central Powers. Sorry, singers pointing at maps, and people play this game the map paint. So, yeah, I'm thinking though where strategically it makes sense to build a naval base. Fighting the Central Powers, they shouldn't have any outlets into the Baltic. Except Poland, which if the Soviets attack Poland, Soviets aren't in a faction here though, so they haven't even with mutual enemies of the United States and yeah, they're not at war with the Central Powers either. Even with the same mutual enemies, the Soviets won't, for whatever reason, join. The British faction probably because it's anti-Stalinist, and there's like an AI opinion penalty. So, Poland probably won't either. Could join the Central Powers, though. Maybe just because the Soviets are so big. I don't know. But probably won't. Might. If they don't join the Central Powers, then Soviets will just roll over them before the US comes to liberate them eventually. They might join the North American Alliance and become a government in exile because the US is democratic, so they can do that. Oh, there's more, it's worth noting there's more music choices now with the DLC. Even if none of the features beyond music should be enabled, the music list should be expanded. Although I think this is one of the older ones. So pink would be my faction. And white would be my enemy. And if I was playing as Karelia or Denmark, I think the Baltic coast makes the most sense. Of course, if fighting these guys, this would be a really bad place for naval base. Be better up here. Safe way around without Lend-Lease. If I Lend-Lease to someone who's at war, say the Nordic People's Republic is still hang on, I want to Lend-Lease them. If I send them via here, it would be their convoys, they get sunk. Yeah, that's actually a good reason as Karelia to put the naval base up here. But it makes a longer route. Whew! They have plenty of convoys for the longer route, that's fine. I was gonna say it makes a longer route to getting, like, to England. Doesn't matter. The multiplayer game, I put the, this adds a little steel. February is next. Let's just see. January 8th. Yeah, I think they can both be done. Especially because they're upgrading infrastructure in the same state, so it should make the naval base a little faster. Hopefully the AI actually does the naval base. With Joe, a naval base here, though, and messing with initially not Finland, with Sweden and stuff, this would now allow the Karelian Navy to mess with the Swedish Navy a little without, hopefully, this getting invaded by Finland. That's because in order to fight the Central Powers and have Joe in the combined faction, I'm gonna have to fight the Turkish over land in the multiplayer game. And that's gonna mean Syria very likely getting occupied. Just as it would here if I fought them over the land. Although I'll have Joe divert divisions that are going to Norway to Syria instead. Maybe it'll be possible to hold on, and probably for quite a while with the British troops. Anyways, I know you guys aren't too interested in hearing all this. Let's see. Another... Ooh! Chief Engineer. Nice. I don't know. The file sizes get big when you do a bunch of things all paused. So I already blocked from achievements and stuff. As for military access with the Soviets. Sure. It's Karelia maybe could join the war in Poland. Like manually justifying them and maybe get a little puppet state out of Poland. Japan, no, that would only be if the war ground to a halt. Unlikely. Or maybe if they occupied Poland and Romania eventually turned on the Central Powers to send them troops if went to war with them. I don't know, of course. Yeah, that's the more likely scenario. So it's a useful thing. Right. I hate doing this, but I've been tagging around anyway, sometimes off camera to look at stuff. They're requesting Danish troops. Okay. I didn't know the AI was smart enough to do that. And desperate defense? Alright. 14 days. 105. Convoys to store as a mass, although it's longer till anything, but it's quicker per ship. These guys are reforming their army, which means they're gonna remove some of they have the obsolete armed forces debuff. This is part of why they've done so terribly. This is gonna remove a big chunk of these. 30% division attack, 20% org. They're gonna lose 20%, 10 of those, and division speed increased 15%. So yeah, they'll drastically reduce the debuffs, and then there's a decision, I think, to completely remove them. So Norway's army is going to become a lot more dangerous. And this is part of why we've been able to push them, apparently, is because they had these debuffs in their military. Didn't look too carefully. Really strong debuffs, but they're finally removing them. I have no interest in any of these Spirited Air Force Command things. I won't be doing any of these. Instead, I'll be saving for direct ground support. And that will at least enable if I get a handful of casts. The monsoon front. Okay, this is new. Save this in. It's the more things that would pause, like the considering the non-aggression pact, it makes the file size larger. So don't want to do too much of that. And if you exit the menu and swap that way, this was already, just by the game rules being customized, already blocked from the Paradox achievements and the Steam ones if you don't do Iron Man. So that's irrelevant. As much as I hate using console commands, it's quicker than Xing out and back in. To do this because the AI is terrible at managing. If you're doing communists, miners, and not just exploiting the heck out of the game, you really need the other miners to play reasonably well. Especially if I'm going to be swapping to Karelia at some point. They didn't even run ideological loyalty, so their army is going to be tiny for a very long time. It'll take a long time of running that to have a decent-sized army. And they already locked themselves out of the political focus tree version, so indoctrination or whatever. So they're not getting any weekly manpower, so tiny little Karelian army. If I swap to them, I play from as well, and then Denmark. As Karelia, maybe I'll just manually justify Poland. That seems the smart choice. If I can get a chunk of Poland. Or maybe Estonia, Latvia. They should join the US faction if I'm not at war with anything else. The US won't want new enemies. Of course, maybe they don't care about Karelia that much. But, yeah. Creating new puppets, getting more allies. It's the only way of having a prayer, changing the path of history. And preventing the world we live in where there's no one to stand against the US, which is why you have, like, Baronet class pushing everyone around, police brutality, occurring in Australia against protesters. I just saw some videos of that. Islamophobia being fed so that people think, oh, the real threat to my way of life is Muslims. Oh, no, it's not Muslims, you jackasses. It's the billionaires. They're the reason your lives suck. It's not immigrants. That's just a scapegoat that the billionaires convince you to look at. But these right-wing, these Christian nationalists are the worst. They think there's like God is cursing them for letting Muslims live among them or some dumb shit like that. They really are ridiculous people. I've spent enough time around these sorts of people to know they legitimately think these things. And I lived for a while out in the middle of the country after my first master's. So anyways, I hate saying anything about wherever it may pass because I don't want to be doxxed by some crazy. But anyways, oh, Field Marshal and Flexible Strategist. Offensive Doctrine. Could give him a Kneeling Defender. Would be useless except against level 1 enemies. Oh, yeah. Here's what I want to do. I want to pull this guy because I may train up. He's got some experience and he might gain the meticulous prep stuff. Especially if I'm going to swap off Syria before they actually get capitulate. If I decide at some points it's too much. You want to have a lot of... The AI will tend to divide their army into a lot more micro armies with a lot more generals in use. And they won't recruit enough generals for a very long time. Or field marshals. The AI is terrible at managing the command staff. Paradox still won't fix it. Anyways, in Syria, while this guy might get a little experience fighting the Palestinians, create an Israeli puppet. I can understand why they resist that. That would be a communist puppet, so hopefully none of what is happening in our own world will happen here. It's a very different alt history. Someone's got to be in charge of the army of Jordan, which would be invading Palestine from Jordan, from across Jordan, which they were kind of really all before the British came in and like divided everything up. But really, the Palestinians lived on both sides of the Jordan River. Jordan and Palestine were essentially one country before the British, and they were all under the Ottoman Empire, so it was really a province. I don't know, administrative divisions. This is why some Israelis say, oh, there is no Palestine, or they still have a country in Jordan. No, really, that's like the desert hinterlands of the originally what was one country. But it is essentially the same culture. Jordan is also under the brutal dictatorship of a Hashemite absolute monarchy. Hashemites are the same people who rule in much of like many of the little Saudi countries. I forget if it's Saudi Arabia itself. I think that's also Hashemite, but definitely a lot of the like Emirates. They're universally brutal. They're like the Habsburgs of the Middle East, and they're just evil. There's more, democracy even with like the, Palestinian Authority than there is that, because it's at least not an absolute monarchy. And the other government, I can say, because censorship. All right, so Al-Hijazi, what a mouthful of a name, could lead this attack. He's at least a trickster and cautious, so he won't probably get injured fighting. He'll have to be replaced with someone else. Trickster won't be useful for a long time, but I don't think I have anyone with offensive doctrine to lead that fight. I didn't give enough field marshals offensive doctrine and was like, oh, camouflage. And camouflage could be useful. The U.S. is starting to provide some serious air support. Maybe I should, maybe that's what I should do. I should train up one of these guys with camouflage. This guy, commando, cautious. Then he can be given offensive doctrine when he levels up. Jafar Ibn Jafar. I'm pretty sure that's a nonsense name, but okay. Generals can, I think, roll commando and trickster, but the odds of it are 1 in 36 with the thing inventive leadership. I don't have that anymore, so they're pretty much nil now. But I don't think they can roll commando or any of that without inventive leadership. Yeah, I mean, I could use this guy here to train him up, but it's a much more active and dangerous front. I might lose territory from that. But the unyielding defender, I'll try and get to level 2. Hopefully he rolls meticulous prep. This guy did. 5 plus 7, 12, 4, 7. Yeah. Ahmad ibn Halil, he rolled the meticulous preparation extra trait points. Meticulous prep plus 1 planning logistics on level up chances. And they can neither or both, so it's nice. You don't have to worry about them getting only 1 extra point and being hard to nose. And this guy, 2 level ups, he rolled it only 1 of the 2 times. So he's got less long-term potential, probably. And this guy who's also a trickster. There's this field marshal. Got breakthrough. Aggressive assaulter. So yeah, that unknown defender, I might actually be better off putting in the field marshal, because I am sometimes suffering crits now on the defense. Not here, but I think over here I suffered occasionally. It may not be entirely useless. And this guy didn't roll extra trait points even once. This guy is 10, which offensive doctrine 7. Yeah, he hasn't rolled it. So maybe the unyielding defender will become the field marshal, and once he's done with the cooldown of having been pulled, this guy, Tafik bin Halil, he's already got 62% towards leveling up. He's an inflexible strategist. Cool. Logistics is important. can't get any worse than this guy. He might gain logistics and level up. It'll still take a long time for a field marshal to level up, though. Let's him pause. Alright. God, 30 minutes and very little happened. Sorry, folks. I'm so slow. I considered fast-forwarding these videos, but... been giving out new equipment, using up some of the artillery, but the template that I gave artillery has also anti-air, so you get under-equipped anti-air, which is not great. I need support anti-air on the mountain artillery as well, probably. Well, this, because of all this stuff, they have very little work. And actually, other divisions that have anti-air can protect. It averages all divisions in a fight out. So, like, this would protect them if I upgrade. It might need retraining if I do it. This one already has the anti-air. 20%. They probably don't mean... Oh, no, they have losses to replace. A lot of them. These, they'll lose experiences. A lot of guys... Right. I'm buying anti-air guns, which I definitely need. Got a captain of industry. Eventually, I'd replace this guy with an elusive gentleman if I was in survival enough, but that would... It's actually better than this guy if ends up US occupied. This might cause a little bit of problems for the government. Especially if probably economist support would cap out at like 2%. But it's better than nothing. And next thing in political power is maybe metals, if anyone can get them. Alright. Why can't I change the... There's 8 aircraft here. I should be able to remove the more ground crews. This is the Southern Norway Air Zone. This is an annoying bug. I hate it. I'm never going to be able to produce my own aircraft. It wouldn't be particularly wise with how much air superiority the Americans have. Though, actually only effectively 130 aircraft are there, and some of them are CAS. That's not terrible. I could probably sneak some CAS through if I had the tech. After towed anti-air, and I could start producing anti-air. That was probably going to do this. To improve the anti-air attack. I think this even improved... It's not an equipment factor, so it should produce... If I improve the effectiveness of anti-air that I bought even. So I'm just going to go right into that next. I did check the rocket thing will provide the buff that can be used on rocket effort. On this. In fact, I could have easily planned it ahead and gotten advanced rocket artillery in 1941 without ahead of time penalty. That was dumb on me. I didn't prioritize that. This is a big upgrade over this. 38 soft attack. 30? Okay, it's not a huge upgrade. And base production cost is actually higher. Maybe not. But yeah, this will help with that. Be done. So advanced artillery, right to advanced rocket artillery. Without any ahead of time. And then advanced artillery upgrade after that. But that point, this will grow the artillery on my own. So probably get the next upgrade there. After Recon Company 3, thought about engineers, but eventually I want to field hospitals, it's true. And MPs if I have to occupy like Saudi Arabia if they join the US faction. Maybe I could start production of some aircraft, though. A few casts would allow me to pull these ground crews and do a little bit, although they'd probably be mostly disrupted. Maybe I'd even be able to, you know, get the fast bombers. Probably not before the US conquers me. Could do this. Have a fighter that has secondary bomb locks, so they get the range bonus of this. Although why do I? It's better to just actually use dedicated casts. Sort of, but that's not even true. Doctrine effects and ML effects will apply. Is in the first slot. It's going to be like, why would you want fighter weapons on casts that are not going to shoot back effectively? True, but the air attack value of an aircraft reduces the disruption, air attack and air defense, and speed effectively too, because otherwise attacking aircraft get an attack bonus. So it looks at enemy, doing disruption, it looks at enemy speed in absolute terms, attack, and compares this enemy speed and attack to any escorts, where attack is more valuable in reducing enemy disruption than speed. So fast enemy interceptors who are shooting down bombers and high attack escorts is what you want. But for casts, if you have like a single light machine gun pair, the air attack is going to reduce disruption suffered. Not as much as the air defense of a defense turret, but you can do both. If I'm drastically outnumbered, my casts, I can't have them all getting disrupted. There's no point in paying the fuel. Oh, shoot, there's one thing I forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. My brain with the long COVID. I got these 4 destroyers from the, can I save them? Sometimes the game allows it. Usually not. Oh no, it does. I can't upgrade, but I just saved myself Navy XP if I... And they don't even have the tech for this, and they do have anti-air guns. Which is not something... let's call this... Jordan Destroyer. Or Jordanian early. Nah. Early Destroyer. Parentheses, Jordanian. JRDN. So, these were designs stolen from Jordan. It says mine layer, but it doesn't have any actual mine laying rails, so... Not a mine layer, it's... Not even, it's a gunship. Actually, it's anti-air destroyer, really. It's the only real thing is. There may be multiple designs here. Can't change that designation, even though they're... Some have... Well, they all have central range finding. I mean, it's not cost effective to add this, but if you already get it, there's no reason to remove it. It's already there. So yeah, 4 destroyers, and it does add slightly the cost and the manpower of a ship both contribute to naval XP experience gains. Save to file? No. Right. Oh, well, let me. Probably just created a duplicate. No, it didn't even create a duplicate entry. Didn't. And it renamed them. Perfect. These are anti-air stores. That's all they're good for. Is providing a little protection against enemy aircraft. For they don't even have anti-air. That's very much. But they're still vulnerable themselves. They have less than 5. But you know, if I built the capital ship for a Pride of Fleet war support bonus someday. But I have a little bit of fuel, so I can... Why am I doing that? Repair priority high, split off enabled. Do not engage. They're just here to grind naval XP as long as I have fuel, which I do. I should have done that the moment I got them. So that'll help with naval XP. Just slowly producing just a modicum of... Does anyone have aircraft I can buy? Detecting them. British. We're the one nation I probably don't. My convoys just get sunk trying to buy their stuff. Oh well. No aircraft to speak of. Wait, there's a naval battle here? Who's fighting in the... It's gotta be Central Powers fighting someone, but ooh, maybe a British fleet. That's, I guess, is they're sending convoys through the Suez. And they got, attacked by subs or something. Anyhow. All these garbage admirals. Did I roll? Oh yeah, this... Actually, I know when, but... This guy's garbage. Absolute garbage, unless I was to swap him base strike and try and get him air controller without him leveling up. And then, I guess, slower XP game could be a benefit. Yeah, he's... Because air controller would enable military command stuff. I'd get him a little progress in that, and then swap back to signals training. He can eventually chief... probably... Military command, naval strike specialist. Probably wouldn't do any of that anyways, though. Sortie efficiency? Oh, that's really good if you stack a lot of carriers, but... I'm not gonna have any carriers, so this guy's garbage. Bold, useful, variety of things. Oh, I don't have a admiral. You're like, why are you... You got a task force here. I'll just call this Syrian Navy. It's all in one group. And training task. Training force 1.